the brother of King Henry VIII, Arthur Tudor, Prince of Wales. Henry VII rose to power in England following his victory over Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. To strengthen his claim to the throne, Henry and his royal advisers traced his ancestry back to ancient British rulers. In a symbolic move, they named his first son after the legendary King Arthur and identified Camlet as present-day Winchester. Henry's wife, Elizabeth of York, gave birth to their son in Winchester, further cementing the connection to Arthurian legend. Now, let's explore the life of Arthur Tudor, the Prince of Wales. Arthur was born on the 20th of September 1486 at St. Swithin's Priory, as the eldest child of Henry and Elizabeth. He symbolised the unity between the House of Tudor and the House of York, marking the end of the Wars of Roses. Arthur also inherited the title of Duke of Cornwall at birth. His baptism at Winchester Cathedral was confirmation by Bishop John Alcock, marked his formal entry into the royal family. Notable figures such as John de Vere, Thomas Stanley, and Queen Elizabeth Woodville were among his godparents. Initially, Arthur was cared for by Elizabeth Darcy, who had previously served Edward IV's children. Upon becoming Prince of Wales in 1490, Arthur had his own household, reflecting his royal status. Henry VII and Elizabeth had 6 more children, but only Margaret, Henry, and Mary survived to adulthood. Arthur shared a strong bond with his siblings, especially Margaret and Henry. Arthur's journey into knighthood began in 1489, when he was made a Knight of the Bath. He was formally appointed Prince of Wales and Earl of Chester in 1490 at the Palace of Westminster. His ceremony included a grand procession down the River Thames, and Arthur was also inducted into the Order of the Garter at St George's Chapel in Windsor Palace in 1491. Alongside his formal education, Arthur excelled in activities like archery and dance under esteemed tutors. By 1501, it was widely believed that Arthur's supposed frail health, which had been discussed since 1502, was actually a misunderstanding of a letter from that year. However, there are no contemporary accounts of Arthur being in poor health. As he grew up, Arthur was recognised for his remarkably tall stature for his age and was considered handsome by the Spanish court. He bore a resemblance to his brother Henry, known for his striking looks, sharing features like reddish hair, small eyes, and a prominent nose. Despite being perceived as delicate overall, Arthur's friendly and gentle nature garnered him admiration. In May 1490, Arthur was appointed as the warden, responsible for the security of the border between England and Scotland, overseeing all the marches towards Scotland, with the Earl of Surrey acting as his deputy. He began participating in peace commissions from 1491, and when his father travelled to France in October 1492, Arthur took on the duties of Keeper of England and King's Lieutenant. Following the example of Edward IV, Henry VII established a Council of Wales and the marches to assert royal authority in the area, appointing Arthur as its leader. Although the council had been created in 1490, Jasper Tudor, the Duke of Bedford, formally headed it. Arthur was sent to Wales in 1501 at the age of 15 to further consolidate royal control. In March 1493, Arthur was granted the authority to appoint justices of Oyer and Termina, empowering the council to handle legal matters and investigate franchises. He received support from members of the English, Irish, and Welsh nobility, including Gerald Fitzgerald, the 9th Earl of Kildare, who had been brought to the English court due to his father's involvement in the crowning of Lambert Simnel during Henry VII's reign. Regarding marriage, Henry VII intended to strengthen the Anglo-Spanish alliance against France by marrying Arthur to a daughter of the Catholic Monarchs, Isabella I of Castile and Ferdinand II of Aragon. Catherine, the youngest daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella, was proposed as a suitable match for Arthur. The Treaty of Medina de Campo in March 1489 outlined their marriage once they reached marriageable age, with Catherine's dowry set at 200,000 crowns. The marriage was granted in February 1497, and a proxy marriage took place on the 25th of August. 2 years later, a formal proxy marriage was conducted at Arthur's Tickenhill Manor in Bewdley, near Worcester. In a letter from October 1499, Arthur expressed his deep affection for Catherine, eagerly anticipating their union and referring to her as his beloved spouse. Until the 20th of September 1501, Arthur and Catherine communicated in Latin. But upon turning 15, Arthur was considered old enough for marriage. Catherine arrived in England on the 2nd of October, and they met for the first time on November the 4th at Dogmas Field in Hampshire. Despite Arthur's pledge to be a devoted husband, they faced difficulties in understanding each other due to differences in their Latin pronunciation. Despite these linguistic hurdles, Catherine arrived in London on the 9th of November. The wedding took place on the 14th, 1501, at St. Paul's Cathedral, with both adorned in white satin. The ceremony was conducted by Henry Dean, Archbishop of Canterbury. The newlyweds were then entertained at Baynard's Castle. Following the ceremony, a traditional wedding ceremony organised by Arthur's grandmother, Lady Margaret, took place. Catherine was led to the bridal chamber, where she was prepared and placed in bed, joined by Arthur. After a month at Tickenhill Manor, Arthur and Catherine moved to Ludlow Castle in Wales. Despite initial reluctance from Henry VII, Catherine was ordered to join Arthur. Under Arthur's governance, Wales experienced peace, yet tragedy struck in March 1502 when they both fell ill. Catherine recovered, but Arthur passed away on the 2nd of April 1502. Arthur's death deeply affected Henry VII, who summoned his wife for solace. Elizabeth was overwhelmed with grief, as seen during the procession for Arthur's soul salvation on the 8th of April, and the subsequent services in London. Arthur's body was transported to Worcester Cathedral on the 25th of April, with Catherine not attending the funeral. Discussions arose about betrothing Catherine to the new heir, Henry, with the Pope granting a dispensation. Henry VIII ascended the throne on the 22nd of April 1509 and married Catherine on the 11th of June. They had 6 children, but only Mary survived. Despite Henry's later desire to annul the marriage, Catherine maintained her innocence. Arthur's premature death marked the beginning of significant changes, with Henry VIII's reign altering England's course. Despite Arthur's brief life, his legacy remains shrouded in mystery, leaving many historians with many unanswered questions.